Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Joe Samaniego here along with Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. We have Daniel Zeri from Women's Racing Win reporting from Monza. We also have Adam Lemery, our Supercars expert, and special welcome to Joshua Burch, motorsports journalist covering Formula One and W Series today. And that's where we're going to start with is the Formula One race. And we encourage everyone in the chat room to comment, share your questions, opinions, and a special hello to all our Ultimate Sports Radio Network listeners. Let's get started with that very exciting sprint race.
Yeah, we're very excited to discuss Formula One's very first sprint race, and we have Josh here with us to discuss. Josh, you were calling the action this morning for everyone listening, reviewing the race on your YouTube channel. So, what are your overall thoughts on the very first Formula One sprint race?
If I'm honest, I went into this one optimistic. I wanted to see what it was going to be like, and I felt a bit disappointed. I called the end of the race. Max Verstappen takes pole position, and part of my soul felt empty. I didn't like the fact that the top three were so spread out. In fact, everyone from Danny Ricciardo onwards, so Ricciardo, Norris, Leclerc, Bottas, Hamilton, Verstappen, all spread out. Fernando Alonso sort of held everybody up. He started on the soft compound tyre, and I felt like we hyped it up so much, we got cheated a little bit because we never saw the flat-out sprint race we were going for. Tyres issues as well. My opinion is this one didn't work. I'm eager to see the next two.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see what the other sprint races look like later in the season. And you brought up a good point there. Fernando Alonso holding everybody up, I guess. For all of our NASCAR viewers out there, Fernando Alonso was the Ryan Newman of the Formula One sprint races. Ryan Newman has a reputation in NASCAR for being one of the hardest drivers to pass, and it was definitely hard to overtake Fernando Alonso today. And Sergio Perez didn't really have a good sprint race. He spun and retired from the race towards the end, and he was certainly the biggest loser today, starting 20th in the field. And starting with you, Adam, do you see Checo scoring points this weekend?
No, I don't. I believe looking at the top 10 overall, I believe those 10 will be the 10 drivers to score points. And I can say I fully enjoyed the F1 sprint race. I know I was pulling for Lewis Hamilton to win, but as we all know, it didn't happen. So he's going to have a lot of momentum going when he gets Max Verstappen tomorrow in the F1 British Grand Prix.
I think tyres are going to be a big factor tomorrow. They're going to be on a completely new set as well. No mandatory starting tyre. However, Perez starting 20th on the grid now. We understand he's got some form of damage to the suspension from that spin in the gravel. Not severe, but severe enough they've had to retire the car in order to change it in Parc Fermé. I think he's going to start the race in the pit lane. That means he's going to be about 25 seconds back from Mazepin. I think it's very unlikely he'll get in the points, but he's in a Red Bull. It's one of the top teams. I think he could just scrape 10th. It's a possibility.
And we just talked about him a little while ago, Fernando Alonso. Although he held up quite a bit of the field for a while, he was certainly the biggest mover at the start, 11th to 5th and half a lap on lap one, the soft tires. You mentioned giving up towards the end, lost a few spots. And we have two more sprint races later this season. In your opinion, should the race length be adjusted for tire wear, or do you think this was the perfect length for a Formula One sprint race?
I think 100 kilometers, 17 laps, I think that's around about the right distance for a sprint race. If we shorten it a little bit to 75 kilometers, there's not really a time enough for everyone to get to grips with the track conditions and get on with it. I think Alonso starting on that soft tire, he had such a great start, as you said. He leapfrogged everybody. He started on the the left-hand side of the grid, sling around everybody up in towards turn 4 and 5 at the loop and Aintree. I don't think he'll do that in the race tomorrow. Everyone's a little bit cautious into that first corner, not wanting to damage it. I think the race distance is just about fine. If we mess around with that, we're not going to get a true representation of what this could be like if we introduce it for 2022.
And one of the big things when it comes to the sprint race and the tire wear, if the race was too short, then everyone would go on soft tires. One of the big things, the race was too long, then those starting on the the medium tires, they will go pretty much to the end, and anybody in soft tires will not really gain a huge advantage. Still a little bit of adjustment. Overall, it was really a great opening first couple of laps, but then it seemed to turn into overall a sprint race where we did see all the actions you would see in a normal Grand Prix race weekend. Just very quick and convenient. And I think big thing, crowd turnout all weekend was huge.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the crowd. It was really refreshing to hear the roar of the crowd during the sprint race today. Really miss hearing that at the Formula One Grand Prix. Yeah, big crowd all weekend, exciting Friday qualifying, late in the evening, W Series racing, and today's sprint race. Do you think this format is off to a good start?
I think certainly in terms of a fan's point of view at the track, this is a great format. You've got action on Friday, the first practice session. That is even more crucial now. It locks down the cars for the weekend. Then you've got a very exciting qualifying that yesterday I thought was fantastic. And then the fans have got sprint races, W Series, as you say, as well. We've had some great 2 days, and hopefully tomorrow's going to be even better. The format works in principle. The one thing, though, in my opinion, that lets it down is the fact is that it wasn't mandatory in race to start on soft tires. I think it should be. That would make it more interesting. And another thing, practice 2 this morning for F1 meant absolutely nothing. And I was commentating on that, and I just didn't feel engaged. It was more of a mess around session for the teams. The format works. Sort out the practice sessions. I think the fans are onto a winner. For those watching on TV, I think it's decreasing their watch along time.
Interesting points, and we definitely encourage everyone in the chat room comment with your thoughts on the F1 sprint race weekend, what adjustments could be made, because definitely it's something where free practice was just more go out there, log laps. We know Mercedes did a lot of laps on those soft tires. That probably played a role in both time strategy, but definitely we encourage everyone to participate in the chat room. And as you mentioned, we had W Series earlier today, W Series racing round 3 of the championship. Josh, Daniel, I know both of you were following the race today. Alice Powell won from the pole, but took advantage of a mistake from Fabian Woolen. Late safety car restart. He had been leading pretty much the entire race with a great first lap pass around Alice Powell. But then entering club corner, locked it up, Powell got around. Overall, Fabian, a third, now second place in the W Series, starting with you, Daniel. Is she coming towards getting her first win in the W Series?
Hi everyone. First of all, I hope you can hear me well with the cars and in the background, also with me on with my mask on. But yes, of course, as you said, it was very interesting race for W Series, the third race of the season. We've got the second victory for Alice Powell. Really exciting for her since she won in front of her home crowd. First time for her, the British Grand Prix. As you said, really exciting season for Fabienne Volvend. It's her second podium of the season, and also her best result in W Series of her career. She had a third place in 2019 and then third place at the opening race this season in Austria. So the second place is definitely the best so far for her, but probably the victory is not too far away from Fabienne. I think that she is probably one of the best surprises of the season so far, together with Sarah Moore, who is really consistent. And I would say that yes, why not? We can definitely see Fabienne Volvend on the top step of the podium soon if she can carries momentum into the next couple of races.
Absolutely agree with you, and I can just hear the LMP2 cars in the background. I'm loving that as well. Fabienne Volvend, I was surprised. As you said, late safety car, lost the lead to Alice Powell. Alice making a fantastic move at club corner, diving up the inside, fantastic position as well. Full credit to Alice today. She's been on it all weekend long as well, with taking pole position. Fabienne Volvend as well. She's one of these drivers that should be more up there consistently. Wasn't really anywhere in 2019, here or thereabouts. 2021, she's really exciting everybody. I'm loving seeing her watching the commentary as well. And I've got a feeling that Hungary, it's her type of track. It's small, it's narrow, it's Monaco without the barriers. Hungary could be her biggest opportunity to take a win.
Also, if I can follow up, I would say that probably yes, it was a little mistake from Fabienne, but I think that she really was pushing hard in the first part of the race. In the first half of the race, she was pushing Alice very hard, and once the safety car bunched up the field again, suddenly Fabienne was left with very little rear tires left.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of the main issues that when the restart happened, she had to give up that position.
And we even saw Jamie Chadwick having that as well. She was right on the back of Alice Powell on the first lap, then drifted back when the safety car came in. And even Alice herself, after she got through at Club, made a mistake at the exit left field and put a wheel in the dirt. So yeah, the rear tyres were going throughout that race as well. And I think that was due as well. The track temperature, it was at that point, it was high. It was 52 degrees I noticed on my monitor. It dropped throughout the race as well as the sun began to move away. But it was just after high noon, hottest day of the year in Britain. Absolutely, the tyres were going off.
Tires were going off. It was definitely, and of course, Silverstone is a very high-speed track. Not a lot of overtaking today, as of course, higher temperatures, slipping and sliding. Same thing we see sort of in the IndyCar and NASCAR. But we definitely saw a great battle between Bicycle Visser, Sarah Moore, and Abby pulling right behind him. One point looked like it was going to be 3 wide. But I was a bit surprised. It seemed like the slipstream, or as we call here in the United States, the draft, didn't seem to have a much stronger effect. Starting with you, Josh. Were you surprised by the slipstream effect not having that big of an effect in the race?
Yeah, I said it in the commentary with Megan as well. And Megan, who was lead commentator on that one, said as well, it doesn't really work without the DRS. Today was a day where DRS could have given some more examples. The slipstream just wasn't working at all. We saw pretty much everyone stay in their positions as soon as the safety car came in. Going on as well, Abby Pulling, her first race in W Series as well in 2021, started 8th from qualifying, finished P8. Fantastic to hold that position on such a tricky circuit as well. And I think a big thumbs up to her as well. The only negative I could say as well is for one that I know is the only couple on the grid of Jess Hawkins and Abby Eaton. Abby finished ahead of Jess, so that could be problems later on, more of a domestic matter.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also speaking about Abby, I would say that it's not a big surprise to me to see Abby Pulling doing so well straight from the start. We've seen her doing great stuff in British Formula 4, both last year and also at the beginning of this year. We spoke with Abby and with Alice. We did a pretty cool interview with both of them. And yeah, I would expect Abby to be in the top 10 straight at her debut. Everyone that we talked to pretty much told us that Abby was really on pace in the test in Anglesey. So yes, we still, of course, we don't know yet who is going to be into that Puma car into the next couple of rounds. But if Pulling will be back in that car, surely we'll be seeing more points from Abby. And also to reply your question about the slipstream, Joe. I definitely agree with all of you said. But I also think that this is probably a matter of the Tattoos Formula 3 chassis. We've also seen very similar races in the Formula Regional European Championships, also in the Formula 3 Asian Championships, where the same car is employed. I would probably say that this is down to the chassis and to the characteristics of the car.
Very interesting to learn about that, the characteristics of that chassis, the car, and how it plays a role with that. Now, we're approaching Hungary, track known, and especially extra important, qualifying. Now, all the race winners this year started on the pole. How important, starting with you, Dan, will it be for qualifying for this next W Series race to get that pole position?
Well, in Hungary, it is definitely important. As you said, all the three winners so far have started from pole. Alice in Austria, then Jamie, and then it's Alice again. But of course, this race was not won from pole. We can say there was actually a pass on track. But yes, in Hungaroring it will be definitely more important to start from pole. It's a track that some of these drivers have already raced on. Of course, Alice has raced in GP3 some years ago in 2012 in Hungaroring, and also I would think Fabian Volven raced there, but in GT cars, not in Formula cars. And by heart, I don't know all the others that raced in the Hungaroring, but Alice is looking really strong, and maybe Emma Kimiläinen. I would say do not count Emma Kimiläinen out. She's always one of my favorites. Today she was still fourth, still great points from a championship point of view. Not quite there on podium pace as we expected, but at Hungaroring, I would definitely not count Emma Kimiläinen out.
I'd agree with that as well. Emma Kimiläinen is a fantastic driver, and we've seen her really throw herself at W Series this year as well. Pole position is always key at tracks like Hungaroring, especially as turns 1 and 2. We go from a long hairpin into a quick left. It's a bit of a tricky one. Holding your nerve off the line, I think, has been key. We saw it in race 1 with Alice Powell, race 2 with Jamie Chandwick in Austria. Today, we saw Wolverine get a fantastic start. I still think Wolverine has got a great chance of race victory. I'm going to be a bit controversial here and say that the pole position will not win the race. I think Beitske Visser will suit the Hungaroring more to her driving style from what I've seen of her. She likes the tight, twisty one. She went well at Brands as well. Even though Jamie dominated that weekend, it's more her cup of tea, that one as well.
Great point there, and if I can follow up on that, I think I would agree with you with Beitske. Today she had engine problems. They had to perform an engine change straight from before the start. She said also she had also gearbox issues. So I don't think that we've seen a clean race from Beitske yet this year. And coming to Hungaroring, why not? Maybe we can definitely see Beitske Visser back in the title fight.
Beitske needs to get back in there. Of course, she came in with 0 points. Definitely, we only have a few races left now. Of course, Alice Powell, we've been showing, leads the point series in the W Series. However, in our grid ratings that we conduct here in the Grid Network, Alice Powell also leads that. The one difference, Fabienne and Sarah Moore, they swap places. Fabienne is in 3rd, Sarah Moore in 4th place. Which drivers, I know you talked about a couple drivers that stood out today, but what other drivers stood out to you, starting with you, Josh?
I think to be a bit patriotic, I don't know how you can tell with a Silverstone flag behind this weekend. I think at the home circuits as well, not the actual top 2. Alice Powell did a fantastic job all weekend. And she was certainly the driver of the weekend for me. But I really enjoyed watching the battle between Abby Eaton, Jess Hawkins, Sarah Moore, and Beitske Visser. Not Beitske Visser. Who one of them dropped further down. Belen Garcia, I think, dropped down the order before she spun out as well. They were all up there. And I enjoyed the midfield today. So my drivers of the days and my opinions of the days all go to that midfield. That was where the action was. And that is where I most enjoyed commentating.
Yeah, sorry if my audio, because there's just started the press conference from the WEC qualifying. But yes, I completely agree. And also from what I'm hearing, Vicky Piria might just get that final point because of a potential penalty for Jessica Hawkins, of course, due to the contact she had on the final lap with Belen Garcia, as you mentioned. So not officially yet, but what I'm hearing, Vicky Piria will get that final point. And also, if I can just say, huge props to Nerea Marti. She is really good, and she was 5th to get today, first top 5 in her W Series career. I followed her since the Spanish Formula 4. I met her when she was racing in the Spanish Formula 4. Great character, really awesome to chat with. And I was kind of expecting both Belen and Nerea to do great stuff in this year in W Series. Belen, of course, because she had the mileage in the Formula Regional European Championship earlier this year. But even though if Nerea didn't race, so she had quite a good testing program. So I would say keep an eye on Nerea because she's gonna score big points in later on this year.
Okay, if I can just jump in on that one just for a second. Yeah, I completely agree with you as well. The two Garcias as well today had some highs and some lows in the overtaking spots as well. Even, as you said, with Batis just jumping back earlier on with that engine problem, not getting away well off the line. And considering quite a couple of us on the broadcast here, American as well, Sarah Moore, another difficult weekend, but she's getting better in the car as well and getting more up there. But yeah, it's been an interesting one.
Definitely been an interesting one, and definitely the next race, of course, will be July 31st for the W Series at the Hungarian side of the Hungary Grand Prix. A lot more F1, but definitely thank you, Dan, for being on the air with us as we discuss the W Series. Kobe, now that we got the sprint racing, how's it looking for that Grand Prix tomorrow?
Oh yeah, now that the grid's set for the British Grand Prix, Adam, we're going to go straight to you. Seeing the lineup and how today's sprint race went, do you think the sprint race is something Formula One should consider keeping long term?
Yes, I do. And regarding with what Josh said regarding how long the sprint race should be, I completely agree with him. I liked it really. I like the format a lot. I hope it sort of reminded me of what NASCAR does regarding the Daytona 500 with the Win 150 races, because the F1 sprint race, just the starting lineup for tomorrow. I hope it continues next year, and Lewis Hamilton's going to have a lot of momentum winning in front of his home country fans because right now Max Verstappen, he could run away with the F1 world title if he wins tomorrow at Silverstone in Northamptonshire, England.
And for me, I'm not sure if we're gonna see the Formula One sprint race long term, but I do admit it was really nice to wake up on Saturday and have some Formula One racing to watch instead of just waking up on Sunday. And plus, for us people on the East Coast, we didn't have to wake up at the crack of dawn to see it. We were able to wake up. We were able to wake up mid morning, be able to see a nice short race, a lot of action. So I think that's definitely a positive. And if we do keep sprint races in the future, I wonder, are we gonna see them at the same rounds? Are they gonna stay at a low number? Are we gonna see different numbers each year? Are we gonna see sprint races at every single round? I think it's certainly gonna be interesting to follow as Formula One debuts this sprint race format, and also the other sprint races later on in the season will be interesting to watch. And while Max Verstappen and Red Bull might have won the sprint race today, the Grand Prix is going to be a little bit more challenging for them. Both Mercedes behind them, Sir Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, and Sergio Perez deep in the field. Clean start by Mercedes, and Verstappen could certainly be in some trouble. Do you see Max capable of winning with both Mercedes behind and no support from his teammate Checo?
Yeah, that's really put a big wrench in Red Bull's plans for the race tomorrow. They wanted Checo ideally as further back as fifth because they knew how strong the Alpine was going to be in the qualifying, starting on the soft tyre. They found that out about 45 minutes before the start. That influenced a couple of other people's tyre choices on the grid. I don't see Mercedes, even though they've got this update, and yes, he took pole position yesterday. Yes, he had all that with Lewis Hamilton, with the home fans. And speaking as a Brit, I know the home fans are going to cheer him on a lot more. But if the sprint race today is anything to go by, and we have to take sort of a small slice of it in terms of the first stint of what the race tomorrow is going to be like, I think Max is going to get away well. And I think he's going to lead, but it's going to come into that last stint after the second stop because tyre wear is going to be high. I think we could see a right battle between Hamilton and Verstappen, but I think Verstappen's going to come out on top. And it pains me to say that, but I don't think Hamilton's going to have what it takes tomorrow, no matter how many seconds the British crowd give him.
Definitely when it comes to this race, you hit all the points. Essentially, Verstappen, he is looking fast. If he runs a solidly fast race where the Mercedes just cannot really keep up with him, it doesn't matter what Mercedes do with strategy, whether they split Hamilton, Bottas on different strategies to try to get at least one of them around Verstappen. He just needs that clean first lap, get more than 1 second ahead of the two Mercedes, no DRS, and if he could pull away, just chip away, he's going to get that job done. Even without Perez, I think the way he is looking right now, if this was the beginning of the season, especially the first two races, I would have said, yes, Max Verstappen's in trouble. But I feel Max Verstappen now has a lot more confidence in that car. That team has a lot more confidence, and I think you're going to see Red Bull start to pull away with this championship, as Adam may have mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And another point that, as you said that, it would just trigger something in my head. We have seen the last 5 races be dominated by Red Bull. Mercedes have not won since Spain. Bottas is yet to win this year. And if what I'm hearing in the paddock is true, and a lot more stronger rumours were circulating this weekend that Russell's definitely already signed the contract, Russell's going to be kicked out not only of Mercedes, but of Formula One completely. They don't want him there anymore. They want George in the car. And so we're going to see Bottas trying to go for glory and try to put other teams. So he's going to interfere with Hamilton tomorrow as well. Mercedes have got external battles with Red Bull. They've got internal battles with Bottas and the management. They're not in a shape to be up there with Red Bull. Red Bull have got it together. They've nailed down Perez. They've nailed down Verstappen. They've got 2 drivers who can win. Mercedes, they don't have 2 drivers that can win this year. And I think it's going to be key. 5 races in a row, I'm betting it's going to be 6.
You brought up a lot of great points, Josh. There's certainly a lot of pressure on Valtteri Bottas to perform, and if we do see Lewis Hamilton and George Russell next year, that lineup is going to be very, very scary for the competition. And it would not surprise me to see if we see some turmoil within the team, because we all know Lewis is the number 1 driver and George is the number 1 driver as well, 2 number 1s. We could see fireworks erupt. It'll be really interesting to see how that goes next season, and some of the surprises from today's sprint race. Talked about Fernando Alonso's strong start, and we also had Sebastian Vettel and George Russell all in the top 10. George Russell, just mentioned, looking really confident right now and very capable of scoring points for Williams. Do you think this can finally be the weekend he finally gets those points for Williams?
I sure do, because I believe George is also from Great Britain. And we all know the Williams history of Formula One, going back to the days of Nigel Mansell, Damon Hill. Those 2 are Brits, and they won in front of their home country fans. So if George Russell were to get points for Williams tomorrow, I think it'd be a lot of momentum for him. It'd be really good, not only for the team, but overall the organization. I'm surprised we haven't seen George Russell on the podium yet this year. I think it'd be really cool to see 2 Brits on the podium, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell.
I honestly think that is a possibility. That Williams is just reacting in a way with George that I've never seen a car like that do. We've got Nicholas Latifi, who's finished 17th in that sprint race. He started the sprint race in 18th place. We moved up 1. George Russell started the sprint race 8th. He finished 9th. He's unstoppable in that car. And certainly as well, I think it might be a bit too early to see George Russell on the podium here at Silverstone. I think it's a strong possibility, but I would go here. Lando Norris, P5, he's the best bet to be alongside Lewis on the podium if Lewis wins the race. That is, of course, because I don't think he is. But so I'll go back to your point, Anna, there about George Russell being on the podium. I think we'll see George Russell on the podium at the Belgium Grand Prix driving a Mercedes.
Oh, George Russell, Belgian Grand Prix, and a Mercedes. That would certainly be a sight to see after the summer break. And I have to agree with what you said about Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris. I think if we're going to see a podium 2 British drivers, it would certainly be it would certainly be those two. And I don't really see a Williams been on the podium at all. But I think this is certainly could be the weekend where George Russell finally gets points with Williams and a team that was really faster than a sprint race, Ferrari. Carlos Sainz was 11, but the Ferrari I'm really talking about who was quick was Charles Leclerc holding all hard charge from those two McLarens of Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, and continuing their improvement. McLaren solid finish, fifth and sixth. Do you think this is really going to be the battle to watch tomorrow, Ferrari versus McLaren?
Yes. That is the short answer, but yes. Look at the Constructors' Championship. I've got on my wall here. What is it? McLaren 142, Ferrari 122 at the moment. That might be 141, actually. But still, the McLaren versus Ferrari battle has been sort of the thing to watch all season because Red Bull started to run away with it as well. We've been looking throughout the field. It's always been a consistent. Since Bahrain, it has been Mercedes versus Ferrari in terms of McLaren, Mercedes, I meant there. So, yes, I think the battle tomorrow is going to be key. We've got both of them actually starting high. We've got Charles Leclerc starting fourth, Lando Norris fifth, Danny Ricciardo sixth. The only disadvantage there is Carlos Sainz, who was involved early on, wasn't he, in the contact with George Russell. And he's down, starting 11th. Russell, still under that investigation, by the way. That's why I think he might not be on the podium. He's going to drop out of the top 10. So Sainz might start 10th. And into the pit stops, how quickly is he going to take to get rid of Ocon, Vettel, and Alonso? That's what, 3 positions. He can do a lot on that one. Yeah, Mercedes, the engine power that they've put into that McLaren for this season as well, it's brought them back up to where we know and love them. We've seen so many podiums this year for Lando as well. So, yeah, it's going to be McLaren versus Ferrari. And you can tell how out of practice I've been saying that. It hasn't happened since 2008. I'm saying Mercedes more.
Definitely some great points. I know when it comes to that McLaren-Ferrari battle, it is something I think this is just really good for the sport overall. Fans of Ferrari, fans of McLaren get invested. Their teams are not in the back. Last year, Ferrari really struggled. We know McLaren has been rebuilding for the longest time when they were with Honda and just had horrendous performance. Now they're both right there behind the top two. And with this new 2022 car coming out after the reveal this week, I think that has to get everyone really excited. And this is definitely, I think, going to be the best on-track battle. You're going to have the two McLarens. You're going to have Ferrari, Charles Leclerc right there. You're going to have Carlos Sainz coming up. I anticipate him to easily get into points, and that's why I think it's going to be a little hard for Russell to get points, especially if we see the Ferrari of Sainz get in there. But I think that's going to be some of the best racing tomorrow in that race.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot to watch this weekend for Silverstone, and we're also going to be watching a lot of the action happening on the other side of the pond here where we are, Joe, in the United States with the NASCAR Cup Series taking on the Magic Mile in Loudon.
Definitely the NASCAR Cup Series in the Magic Mile, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the Foxswood Casino 301 race. The only stop for the Cup Series at New Hampshire. Now, of course, back in 2000, very sadly, we're talking about safety concerns with New Hampshire Raceway after losing Adam Petty and Kenny Irwin Jr. last weekend. Drivers were voicing their concerns about NASCAR's lack of communication with the drivers. Now, one driver that was very vocal, many have seen as a prominent voice, is Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin leads the NASCAR drivers' ratings and is second with the Busch brothers in most wins, 3 each at New Hampshire Speedway. And the latest he has gone to a season without a win since 2018, and that was in 2018 when Denny Hamlin went winless. His only winless season since he started full-time Cup racing in 2006. Considering how dominant he looked at the end of 2020 racing season, winning the Daytona 500, getting in the playoffs, are you surprised here we are and he still has not gotten that first race win?
And before I answer your question, Joe, I want to say it's a big Saturday at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Have a doubleheader today. The Xfinity race is later on today, but right now the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour is raced at the track, and there's a lot of history of the Modified Tour at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and winning this race at New Hampshire and the modifieds. In a way, this is like their Daytona 500, so it's a really big deal. A lot of close racing, excellent drafting. Right now, as the speed race on in the background under caution, pole sitter Justin Bonsignor is out front. When we also have two NASCAR Cup Series drivers in the race today. The two Ryans, Ryan Prix, a lot of history in modifieds, and Ryan Newman, who always drops in and runs his race just about every single year that he can. And to answer your question, I'm a little surprised that Denny Hamlin hasn't won a race, but I do think he's certainly capable of weekend, especially this weekend in Loudon.
And before I answer the question, I will say that this is my former home track. I lived in New Hampshire for 13 years before moving here to North Carolina in 1997. So I know the history of New Hampshire Motor Speedway, going back to when it was called New Hampshire International Speedway. The modifieds, when they go to Loudon, it's a really big deal because normally they run on half-mile and third-mile tracks across the Northeast, especially in New England. And getting back to your question about Denny Hamlin being winless so far, that's a real shock to me. I'm surprised he hasn't won yet, but the end of the it's almost the end of the regular season, and if he doesn't win these next couple of weeks, I'll be shocked. I believe Denny Hamlin has a really, really good shot to win tomorrow at Loudon. He knows the track really well, and it'll be nice to see. I believe it'll be full capacity at Loudon tomorrow, so it'll be really nice to see all of the New England fans at a track known as the Magic Mile in Loudon, New Hampshire.
One driver that's looking for magic at the Magic Mile is definitely Kevin Harvick. Struggled most of the last race weekend. This year is just not going his way. He went 2004, 2008, 2009 winless. Those were all with Richard Childress. Never gone winless with Stewart-Haas Racing. Is this Harvick's best chance of winning? And if he doesn't win on Sunday, is he more likely to go winless this season?
I'm going to have to say yeah. If Kevin Harvick doesn't win this year, I'll be really surprised, just like Denny Hamlin. And yes, Kevin Harvick has won here at the Magic Mile before. So if he wins on Sunday, yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool to give him at least some momentum. He'd be in the playoffs. And who knows what momentum it could give him, going down the road.
To be honest, I don't see Kevin Harvick winning this weekend, but we'll see. It's always funny after the race weekend to go back and look at our predictions on Saturday, and sometimes when I say I don't see somebody winning, that's exactly who goes out and wins. So maybe if I say Kevin Harvick won't win this weekend, he'll go out there and win. But Stewart-Haas Racing as a whole, they haven't really improved their form much, and as an organization, they're truly struggling badly right now.
They are struggling. Not seeing anything from Stewart-Haas Racing, and of course, as we're showing the playoffs, you can see the ones in red, they're outside the playoffs. Yellow, they're winless, and then everyone else that has wins coming into the weekend. Now, the big thing, of course, the defending race winner, Brad Keselowski. This will be the last time he's racing New Hampshire in that number 2. Next year, he'll be with another team. There are a lot of speculation that it's going to be Roush Fenway. In fact, there's going to be a big announcement next week. That number 2 will be driven by Austin Cindric in 2022. And in the 21, Harrison Burton, a big surprise move out of the Toyota Group to Ford and the Wood Brothers. My question to both of you, starting with you, Kobe, is Harrison Burton the correct driver for the Wood Brothers in 2022?
First off, I'm going to say I think this is a great career move for Harrison Burton because, as you know, Toyota is stacked with driver talent, and they have so many drivers but not enough seats to move them up to the Cup level. And you look at the Joe Gibbs Racing Cup lineup right now, I don't really see anybody else who they could possibly move. If one driver is going to be moving to Joe Gibbs Racing Cup lineup, the only logical option I see right now is Ty Gibbs. I can see Ty Gibbs. The plan is for Ty Gibbs to run full time in Xfinity next year, and we'll see what happens in 2023 if he'll replace one of the drivers in Joe Gibbs races. Cup lineup. So there's like really no place for Harrison Burton to go at the moment. I know 2311 Racing is rumored to get a second seat, and right now it seems like Kurt Busch is the leading candidate for that. And I'm pretty sure, although Harrison Burton made his Cup Series debut with Gaunt Brothers Racing, I'm sure Harrison Burton isn't interested in running for top 25s at the most. I'm sure Harrison wanted to be in competitive equipment. That's exactly what he's getting with the Wood Brothers, and right now in the Ford Performance Driver Development Program, I didn't see anyone in the pipeline who's ready to move up to the Cup level besides obviously Austin Cindric. And taking Harrison Burton from TRD, I think Ford definitely got a steal here, and the Wood Brothers get to start over, brand new, fresh with a young driver talent, as they'll get him into the Team Penske stable with the Wood Brothers being one of their affiliates. So I think the Wood Brothers definitely made a bold decision with a driver who has a ton of upside.
For me, I was really surprised about this movement. We don't when it came to the news release, we didn't see any part of. We didn't see Matty D's name in there, and I was very surprised about that. Overall, I can say I am happy to see Harrison Burton jumping up in to the NASCAR Cup Series with an organization that is well known going back in NASCAR's history. Overall, it should be interesting to see how Harrison Burton does next year full time. I expect him to have I don't expect him to have any wins, but as we all know in NASCAR, anything can happen. Top 10s and top 15s could be good for him. Overall, I feel sorry for Matty D. I was hoping that he would stick around in the 21 car, and Harrison Burton going to Wood Brothers. I like it. We'll see how he does in 2022.
As you mentioned, 2022, Matthew Benedetto is out of that 21. He posted a very genuine video expressing frustration, his real feelings, but also grateful for the opportunity he has had to work with the Wood Brothers, and he is so determined to get that 100th win for the Wood Brothers. Overall, some people are talking about he might be washed up. He might be over his prime, but he's only 29 years old. Showing he could race up towards the front. Showing he could potentially win races, but he's out of a ride next year. Adam, starting with you. Can Matt win a race this year, especially before the playoffs? And where can he end up in 2022?
First part of your question, yes. I believe that Matty D will win before the playoffs. I'm surprised he didn't win at Bristol last year, even though he wasn't driving. He had a really good shot to win at the Bristol night race last year, but we all know what happened. When Denny Hamlin overtook him. Where do I think he has a shot to win next year? That's a very tough question. I want him to stay in the Cup Series. I want him to go to a really good car with really good equipment. Well, we'll see what happens. I like Matty D. I have a lot of respect for him. He's one of my favorite drivers right now. And all I know is I hope he goes to a really good seat next year. Not in the Truck Series, not in the Xfinity Series, but I want him to stay in the NASCAR Cup Series.
And to respond to your comment about people saying that he's washed up, and past data from data analyst David Smith and for NBC Sports shows that NASCAR drivers don't typically reach their prime until they're 35 years old. So we probably haven't seen the best out of Matty D yet, and a lot of other drivers who are around that age. And I think it's possible that Matt DiBenedetto could win a race this year, but I don't think it's going to be, like everywhere. I think his best shot is obviously going to be Bristol. He's had the biggest moments of his career have taken place at Bristol Motor Speedway. I remember he took a BK racing car to a top 10 finish at Bristol during the spring race when they didn't race on the dirt there, and that was really remarkable. Show what he could really do because on a short track at Bristol on the high banks, it's really difficult and underfunded equipment for him to be able to take a severely underfunded car to a top 10 finish. That really put him on the map, showing what he could do. And then remember when Levine Family Racing was still around, we announced that he was losing his ride to Christopher Bell. Matt DiBenedetto a few days later went out. So we thought he was going to win. Had some contact with Ryan Newman. Car got too tight. Then Denny Hamlin passed him in the closing laps, and that was an absolute heartbreaker. But he showed people that he belonged in the NASCAR Cup Series. And I think Matty D could certainly go out to the Bristol night race once again and have one of those Game 7 moments to show that I'm not washed up. I'm a good driver, and I deserve an opportunity to continue racing the NASCAR Cup Series. So I think that will be his best option to win outside of Talladega and maybe the remaining road courses on the schedule to see ran really well at Road America. And in terms of where he could end up next year, to be honest, I'm not really sure. Like I mentioned, the rumored second car at 2311 Racing, Kurt Busch, leading candidate, Trackhouse. It seems like Ross Chastain might be one of the leading candidates over there as well, plus other options and seats that could potentially be open. Don't know what's going to happen yet with Eric Almirola in the number 10 car. Almirola is having a dismal season, and maybe Stewart-Haas Racing decides it's finally time to replace him, and maybe Matt DiBenedetto could stay in the Ford camp, go to Stewart-Haas Racing. Maybe he becomes an option at Trackhouse as well, but besides that, to be honest, I don't really see where Matt DiBenedetto fits next year in the NASCAR Cup Series. Maybe it would be a good idea for him to drop down to the NASCAR Xfinity Series. There's going to be some competitive rides open next year. I know he said he's not really interested in going to trucks or Xfinity, but maybe he could have a chance to reset his career and return to the Cup Series later on, or maybe he really enjoys being competitive in the Xfinity Series. We know Austin Cindric's leaving that number 22 ride next year, and maybe he can stay in the Team Penske camp, replace Austin Cindric, go out there, compete for wins and championships in a less competitive field, because Cup is extremely competitive. Xfinity is competitive as well, but you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah, he would be on a top tier ride, capable of going out there winning every single week, and also that number 10. Well, not necessarily number 10, but Justin Haley is going to be moving up to full-time Cup, we call it, next year, so that number 11 is going to be available. So I think right now Matt DiBenedetto's best options is probably the NASCAR Xfinity Series, going to Team Penske replacing Austin Cindric, or that number 11 ride at Colic Racing.
And you bring up the good point, that is quality rides. You could be in the Cup Series, but the backmarker team, do you really want that, or do you go down to the Xfinity or the trucks level and do what John Hunter Nemechek is doing right now, especially in the trucks? Big thing, of course, going to be following is the weather. The weather does not look that great for the weekend at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. The big thing, though, we're seeing precipitations within the 60% range. Now, New Hampshire Motor Speedway does not have lights, so they're not able to do night racing. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Monday's forecast just as much looked pretty wet as well, but the big thing, we're not at 100% rain, so there's still the chance of racing. And of course, that race is going to be tomorrow. And assuming that race takes place, of course, we're usually on the air about 90 minutes on the conclusion of that race. One race that's going to be taking place tonight in Nashville, Tennessee, has to be a lot of talk about this, the SRX Championship.
Well, tonight, if the weather holds up in Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway tonight, there's a chance that we could see some rain, although the chance of the rain decreases as we go later into the night. I hope they have their air tight steering at Fairgrounds Speedway, because it would be such a shame to see the season finale of the inaugural SRX season get rained out under the lights in prime time. But the championship tonight is going to be decided between three drivers: Tony Stewart, Ernie Francis Jr., and Marco Andretti. Smoke retired from full-time NASCAR competition several years ago. He's the co-founder of the series alongside Hall of Fame crew chief Ray Evernham. Marco Andretti stepped away from full-time IndyCar competition. Ernie Francis Jr., a driver looking for bigger opportunities outside of Trans Am. And Racer Magazine reported that Ernie is potentially interested in the road to Indy. And with Austin Cindric leaving Team Penske Xfinity ride, Ernie Francis Jr. actually went on Twitter just yesterday and publicly stated that he would be interested in replacing Cindric next year at Team Penske in that Xfinity car. And Marcus Lemonis, CEO of Camping World, responded to a tweet and said that he was very supportive of that idea. And NASCAR Xfinity owner driver Tommy Joe Martins, the team owner of Martins Motorsports, responded to Ernie's tweet saying that he needs Ernie to drive his car on the road courses. So with Ernie's success in SRX, he's definitely getting a lot of eyes in both the open wheel racing world and stock car racing. And with the possibility of big opportunities down the road, is Ernie Francis Jr. the driver that can gain the most by winning the SRX title, or has he already proven enough without winning the title?
For me, if Ernie Francis Jr., it's been really cool to see Ernie Francis Jr. go up against some of the biggest names in motorsports. He competes in Trans Am Series, which is not normally televised, but he's getting his name out there. You know, if he can go out and win the championship, I think it'd be really cool to see him either in an IndyCar or in NASCAR, because he would get his name known. You know, if he were to compete on the road courses for Tommy Joe Martin's Xfinity Series team, that'd be pretty cool. We all know the history of Trans Am drivers have competed in NASCAR: Tommy Kendall, Dorsey Schrader, Jack Baldwin, Scott Sharp, among others. So he joined that list, and I think it'd be really cool to see how he would do in an Xfinity car on the road courses. Could he score at least a top 10? Sure, if it's a track that he knows. But I think for me, it's really cool to see Ernie Francis Jr. going up against some of the best drivers in the motorsports world, in the camping world, SRX series.
For Ernie Francis Jr., I think this really proves that this SRX was definitely worth taking this opportunity. And I think not only for Ernie Francis Jr., but also what we saw with Doug winning that first race earlier this year. We almost had a 17-year-old Lucas win a race last week, and their race on network television with these big stars. I love to see more of this, and I'm hoping SRX could expand to where we have some more upcoming or local talent racing against some of the best racers. Yeah, they're not racing full-time. They're big series anymore of NASCAR, IndyCar, or even Formula One. Originally, we were supposed to have Mark Webber. Pandemic didn't allow that to happen. But this has really allowed Ernie Francis Jr. the opportunity to get it. And even if he doesn't win this championship, still what he's proven, winning at Lucas Oil Speedway, great race after great race. He has another great race. He definitely is making more name recognition for himself.
I totally agree with you. I don't think Ernie Francis Jr. necessarily has to win the title in order to get feature opportunities down the road. It seems like a lot more people are taking notice of Ernie Francis Jr. You brought up the good point last week at Slinger Speedway. The 17-year-old Luke Fenhouse going out there being competitive, and it's such a shame that he had to lose that race at the very end of Marco Andretti, because Luke Fenhouse was side by side with Tony Stewart lap after lap after lap, and he was really showing what he could do. And I know in the past we've talked about drivers, that Saturday night short track star who never gets noticed on a national level, a driver that could be competitive in the NASCAR Cup Series against the likes of Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, but they never get that big opportunity. Your one shining moment to prove that you deserve an opportunity, and a lot of that unfortunately comes down to funding. And without SRX series, Ernie Francis Jr. would probably, just be racing in Trans Am only, and that's it. But Ernie is also racing in Formula Regional America series right now as well. So he's racing Trans Am, getting some experience in open wheel racing, and now in SRX as well. So I definitely think that this is one of the great things and the great stories that come out of SRX, shining the spotlight on talent that otherwise would go unnoticed. And along with the exciting championship battle, we have father versus son, Bill Elliott versus Chase Elliott. I'm looking at some of the photos right now from Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. It is absolutely packed. Everybody's there to see Bill Elliott, Chase Elliott, also Haley Deegan as well. Chase Elliott, NASCAR's most popular driver and defending Cup Series champion, is going to SRX, is likely to, as I said, he's going to draw a big crowd tonight. It's crazy hours before the race, and we already have a big crowd forming at the track. Are you surprised that the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion is going to be racing the night before a NASCAR Cup Series race and a non-NASCAR sanctioned event?
Very much surprised, and I think this is great for motorsports in general. I cannot recall Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Sr., other current Cup Series champions during their time as a champion deciding to go to a non-NASCAR event days, and especially the day before a Cup Series race. That was just something where if you wanted to see Jeff Gordon, you want to see Dale Earnhardt, you had to go to the track where there was the Cup Series or the Xfinity, then the Busch Series or the trucks. So this is really huge. I think this just really adds to that excitement, and it's a win for NASCAR. I know some people have said SRX could replace NASCAR. I don't see that. The way I see it, SRX is introducing people to NASCAR, to IndyCar, to the new upcoming drivers like Ernie Francis Jr., Haley Deegan, putting them all on the platform. And at the end, people are going to tune in. You're going to see about Chase Elliott, and they might have that reminder. Oh, yeah, they're racing this weekend at Loudon, New Hampshire. I don't have any plans. I'm going to check out this race. So it's very surprising, but I think it's overall great for the sports in general, motorsport.
I have to agree with you, Joe. This is going to be awesome to watch tonight to see how Chase Elliott does going against his father, Haley Deegan, and among the regular SRX drivers. I definitely will be tuning in. And it's just awesome for the series, to see someone like the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion on a one-off. The day before, he has to go the Magic Mile in Loudon, New Hampshire, go against his father, Tony Stewart, Haley Deegan, Ernie Francis Jr., Mark Andretti, among all the other SRX drivers. I believe the ratings for this will be through the roof, and it could be one of the greatest races that the SRX has this year, and it could be potential that we could see if whoever the NASCAR Cup Series champion is for this year, they could watch this race and say, hey, maybe I'd like to do that, on a non-NASCAR weekend, to see how I would do. It's going to be awesome. I look forward to watching it tonight, and I know the crowds are going to be and like you said, Kobe, the fans are going to be packed at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. I don't know. It's just going to be awesome to watch.
To be honest, I'm not really surprised to see the NASCAR Cup Series champion race on a non-NASCAR sanctioned event. It seems like Rick Hendrick is started to be more lenient with his driver. I know, Adam, we talked about this on Grid tonight about how important it is to keep the driver happy. We know Kyle Larson, he's actually racing tonight at Eldora Speedway on the dirt, and we know keeping the driver happy is going to be super important, because when Larson signed with Hendrick Motorsports, we all wonder, is Rick going to let him race on the dirt? Because we know how much Kyle Larson loves racing on dirt tracks all over the country. So I'm not really surprised to see Chase Elliott in tonight's field, considering Rick Hendrick has also allowed Chase Elliott to race on dirt as well. He'll let him run the Chili Bowl, the Snowball Derby, and the Rolex 24. So this does not surprise me at all. I think it's really great for motorsports to see the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion racing at SRX tonight at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, and also we have IMSA GT racing this weekend at Lime Rock Park after a crazy incident that happened yesterday when an RV actually got out onto the racetrack, and the state police are handling that case. That was really crazy to see from Lime Rock, and we'll definitely have a recap of the IMSA race tomorrow on Grit Live Wrap Up.
Definitely bizarre. Hearing that reminded me of when somebody stole the pace car at Talladega. Now, one of the big things, of course, we do have a lot of racing, including the Supercars. Race 1 of a 3-race super sprint, and Cameron Waters, the surprise winner of the first race of the weekend. The bigger surprise has to be Triple Eight Racing. Both drivers received a 15-second time penalty. Adam, the Triple Eight took themselves out of this race by their mistakes, or was this a race where the competition just had their number and was bringing the fight to Triple Eight?
For me, I believe it was, regarding SVG's penalty. I think, the old saying, Rodens racing. I believe I'm surprised that Triple A made these mistakes because normally they don't do this. So I believe that races 2 and 3 in Townsville, I believe Triple A will get back their momentum and be on the podium for both.
And to see them both in the podium, of course, that will just show again their dominance when it comes to the Supercar Series. One of the big things, 2 more races ahead for the weekend. And that is just something where we're going to see a lot of exciting racing at Townsville. Shane Van Gisbergen has gone winless in a super sprint race week before this year. This is the opportunity teams want to try to catch up to Shane Van Gisbergen. And it's likely that we're going to see him go winless this weekend.
No, I believe SVG will win at least one of the 2 remaining races in Townsville. He has a lot of momentum right now. I know he's got the doubleheader last weekend in Townsville, but he's leading the point standings going into the summer break. It's kind of, I believe it'll help him out a lot in this down the road. And, like I've said a lot on this show and on Grid Tonight, SVG is on another planet. It's hard to beat him right now, but we saw what happened in race 1 with Cam Waters taking the checkered flag, Anton D. Pasquale second, Taskmaster third. So it should be interesting to see what the rest of the 2021 Repco Supercar Championship looks like down the road.
Definitely going to be very interesting to see how the Supercar Series looks down the road. And, of course, definitely 2 more races this weekend left for them. Let's take a quick glance at the grid ranking entering this weekend. Of course, only 1 event out of the 6 this weekend being scored. Everyone yellow, they still have races. So, of course, Shane Van Gisbergen, that's scored after the first race, lost some ground to Sebastian Ogier. But definitely 2 more races he could catch up, and especially with what happens with Sebastian Ogier. And, of course, that's our next and final series of the grid ranking that's going on right now is Rally Estonia. Kobe, what's going on so far at the Rally Estonia event?
So on Thursday, Kali Rovanpera finished stage one with the lead entering Friday. On Friday, in 8 stages, Tonic took the lead at the end of stage 2. However, in the 3rd stage, a tire blew and fell 20 seconds behind the leader. In stage number 4, Tonic had to retire from the race. Rovanpera went on to win 6 out of the 8 stages. Thierry Neuville on that stage blew a rear tire, losing valuable time, and not a good day for Hyundai. However, today, Neuville and Breen are both in the top 3, Ogier 4, but since going on the air, Thierry Neuville now leads Ogier at the moment. With Rally Estonia wrapping up tomorrow, did Tana's championship hopes take a deep dive?
It did take a very deep dive. He really needed to come in here, get that win, get momentum, but now that opportunity has essentially gone up to have 2 punctures and then just pull off, lost a lot of ground. He's going to need everyone else to have bad luck, and right now as we're seeing it, again, you have Ogier, and now Ogier, he's being listed currently in 2nd place, and Neuville up there now leading. So there's been some changes, yes, now when it comes to World Rally, but of course the rally is still going on. They're still in the 17th, 18th stage of the World Rally race at Estonia.
Yeah, I definitely think his championship hopes took a deep dive. I think got Tonics out of it, and he's just gonna have to try to salvage whatever's remaining of the current season.
Definitely what he could recover, and now we see again Kali Rovanpera has regained the lead in World Rally Championship. So still very early going on in that 18th stage now. And when it comes to leading, Adam, what are we looking at for pick a winner this weekend?
Well, before we make our picks, we want to congratulate Alex F. on Twitter. He picked Alex Powell to win the W Series race And with that, he scores double points. And if you want to get involved, just use hashtag pick a winner. And if your answer is right, you'll get double points just like he did. And if you take a look at the standings, Joe is first, Matt and Kobe are tied in second. I'm third, but then Schneider in fifth. So now it's time to make our picks. We'll start with the Formula One race at the Silverstone circuit in North Hampshire, England. And for my pick, yes, I'm going to go with the home country boy, Sir Lewis Hamilton, to find a way around the Red Bull of Max Verstappen and claim the checkered flag. Kobe, you're up.
Well, Max Verstappen and Red Bull's been on a roll lately, and he looked really good in the short sprint race. A little bit earlier today, but I don't think the Grand Prix is going to go as well for Max Verstappen as a sprint race. That's why I'm picking the Brit himself, Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Sir Lewis Hamilton, I think, has to be a favorite, especially with Verstappen being solo up there. I'm going to go with Max Verstappen. I think he's going to pull it off. He's going to have the perfect race. As Josh has mentioned, Mercedes not exactly 100%.
Now we go to a race that is near and dear to me because it's my former home NASCAR track, the Foxswood 301 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And I'm going to go with the driver that I can say I saw his father. Yes, his father right there in the old NASCAR Sports North Series. I'm going to go with MTJ, Martin Truex Jr., to find a way to capture the win on the Magic Mile. Kobe, who wins in the Granite State?
You picked a Joe Gibbs racing driver. Well, I'm going to go with another Joe Gibbs racing driver. We talked about him early in the program, wondering if he's going to get that first race win of the year after performing strong all season long. I think the driver to number 11, Denny Hamlin, is going to win in Loudon.
I think this is the first time none of us are going with a Hendricks driver. I know that some people are surprised I'm not going with Kyle Larson this weekend. I'm going to go with Kyle Busch. I think him and that 18 Toyota are going to come out strong, and they're going to get that win.
Now it's time we go south to the land of country music and the Grand Ole Opry at the National Fairgrounds Speedway in Tennessee for the Camping Out SRX season finale. And for me, there's only one pick that I'm going with. Yes, I'm going with the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Chase Elliott, to come in and steal the victory. Kobe, you've been silent with your pick all week, so now it's your turn. Who do you got?
Well, Adam, I've had my pick decided ever since it was announced he was running this race. Chase Elliott.
I should go with Chase Elliott. He seems like the favorite to win. I think, though, we're going to see a surprise winner. I think that's going to be Ernie Francis Jr. He's going to go out there, win, and get that championship.
Now we go to the land down under, and we go to the WD-40 Townsville Supercars race 2 and 3 of the Repco Supercar Championship. For race 2, yes, I'm going with SVG to win. In race 3, I'm going to go with this teammate, Jimmy Wincup. Kobe, you're up.
In race 2, I'm going to go with Antoine De Pasquale. In race 3, Shane Van Gisbergen.
I'm going to go with Shane Van Gisbergen for race 2. And race 3, I'll go with this Pasquale as well. I think what he showed with that second place finish really shows his potential to get that win. And of course, we encourage everyone to allow Grid Network to continue growing and show our full potential. Join our Patreon. Colin, Mark, Michelle, thank you so much for your support. We greatly appreciate it. Definitely invest in the Grid Network. We've been transparent with how your funds are used as we improve week in and week out, including having guests on our show. Very grateful for Josh today, and we encourage everyone to visit Josh's YouTube channel, link in the video description, as well as our link to Pablo's 10% discount for Grid Network viewers. Link down there in that video description. Get 10% discount on anything from dog leashes, clothing, goodies for your furry friend, and a portion of that sales goes to helping sick, homeless, rescued dogs. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon on YouTube. Don't miss any of our programs, especially tomorrow's Grid Live wrap-up, That's going to be a lot of fun. Assuming we get the NASCAR race in tomorrow. Of course, the rain forecast is not that great. And of course, if you're on TikTok, check out the Grid Network right there. We post there weekly, including breaking news updates, as we did with Matt DiBenedetto's situation this past week, and for Pick a Winner to submit your picks there. And of course, for everyone, once again, hashtag Pick a Winner, get involved with our Pick a Winner game right here at the Grid Network. Special thank you to Daniel and Josh for being on our program. For Adam, our supercar expert, and Kobe Landis from the Podium Finish, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Publis. Publis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Publis.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.